Hello, hello. Welcome to What's Working Now. I am your host, Katie Richardson. Today we have an exceptional guest. His name is Steve Sims. And before you hop in, Steve, let me just share a little bit of his bio so you get a sense of what's this conversation all about? How can Steve help you? How can he inspire you to go do the things that you feel called to do in this world? Steve Sims wants to know, do you know anyone that's worked with Sir Elton John or Elon Musk, sent people down to see the wreck at the Titanic, on the seabed, or closed museums in Florence for a private dinner, for a party, and then had Andrea Bocelli serenade them while they eat their pasta? You do now quoted as the real life Wizard of Oz by Forbes and Entrepreneur magazine. Steve Sims is a best-selling author with Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen, sought-after coach, top-rated speaker in the US, after keynoting at a variety of networks, groups, and associations, as well as the Pentagon and Harvard. Holy cow, we're just scratching the surface, just getting started. Steve Sims, welcome to the show.
I hate my bio, but thank you for embarrassing me. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. And I should also add, this was not in the bio, you are launching an incredible book called Go for Stupid. And so I'm curious, before we dive into that, I want people to get a sense for who you are. So tell us the story of an experience that really formed and shaped how you view the world today.
Wow, that's a bigger question than it sounds. How I view the world. So I grew up poor in East London and was on a building site, had no money, had no future, had no affluent friends, had no internet, had no social to tell me how inadequate my life was. But I was aggravated and I couldn't work out why other people seemed to have it and I didn't. So I went out on a journey to try and quite simply communicate with affluent people. Along the way, quite simply, if I give you something that's of value to you, then I get your attention for 2 hours that I can pretty much podcast you. I can interview you. Hey, I got you a drum lesson with Guns N' Roses. I'd love to have a conversation with you on how you see real estate investing. And so I went down this path. What I did for 25 years, being the concierge to billionaires, was not my business. My business was getting you for 2 hours and interviewing some of the most powerful, influential people in the planet and asking them about relationships, business opportunities, contracts, culture, all these that was my job. Over here,
so good.
Hey, that was just what I needed to do to get over here. That went on for 25 years. And then, strangely enough, I was in a party in New York. And here's the first lesson. If you're in a great room, great things happen. If you're in a poor room, nothing happens.
Oh, man.
So I always made sure that the room I was in was always powerful, influential, not ego, hate ego. I will kill ego in a second, but just a good room full of failures. And I'll come back to that word in a second, but I wanted to be in a room where people made things happen, didn't rest on their laurels, but actually did stuff. And I was in this room one day in New York, and I'm telling this story to this lady. Funny enough, you mentioned it about the client that asked me for a dining experience in Florence. And I wanted to see how stupid I could make that request. And I ended up closing down the museum in Florence that houses Michelangelo's David, setting up a table of 6 at 9 o'clock at night. And then halfway through his pasta, he had no idea about this, I had Andrea Bocelli come in and serenade him. And I was telling this lady about it. Turns out she was one of the heads of Simon & Schuster, and I had a book deal a week later. And this is very important, and it's going to sound very snobby, so please listen to it through. I got paid a disgusting amount of money to write the book. Now, why is that important rather than showing off? When you're paid to do a book, you can write what you like because you've already been paid. When you're writing a book and you haven't been paid, you're writing it to sell. So you dilute certain things. Maybe you don't want to come across too blunt here. So you adapt yourself. You shouldn't, but you do.
Okay.
When I got paid to write the book, I was like, result, I've just been paid. I don't care if I sell one copy. I'm just going to write the book I want to write. And that's what I did. And I honestly thought that if we were lucky, we would sell 5 copies if my mum agreed to buy 4. And I really just thought it's not going to go anywhere. And it took off. And what stunned me was that the powerful people that I was dealing with, they would pick up a copy just to find out what the bloody hell I was getting up to.
Yeah.
And I think also to see if I mentioned their names, which I didn't. But it had lots of stories in there and how I, did business and how I built up relationships. And they were contacting me and they were going, I never thought of that. And I would talk about marketing, branding, cultural alignment, relationships, focusing on time, impact. And they were like, oh, that's genius. And I was like, no, it's not. It's simple. Why are so many people ignoring it? Anyway, the book took off. I think it was like 7 or 8 different languages. It was bestseller all over the planet. And I ended up speaking, coaching, training, and that's what I do today. So there's a little snapshot of me.
Well, it's a wonderful snapshot, and you taught us so many things there. One of the things that I thought was really cool in the beginning of your story is you got really clear and defined what it is that you wanted. And you also understood that it was, in a way, it was a different vehicle that was going to get you there. You didn't go after to get the thing that you wanted, you understood you needed to get into a different vehicle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
And I think a lot of people miss that. They're like, but I don't want that thing. I want the other thing. And you realize that getting in that vehicle, providing value and wowing people and creating these incredible experiences got you the thing that you wanted. And I think that heart of service and really being there with the intention of helping the other, has ultimately allowed you to get the things that you want in your life, which I think is such a huge lesson. So thank you so much for sharing that and all of the wisdom. And let's dive into your new book, Go for Stupid. I mean, that's a loaded word. Yes. And for everybody who's watching, he's holding up the book. It's a white book with red words, Go for Stupid. So good. What does stupid mean in Steve Sims' world?
So have you ever heard this horrible word called impossible?
I've heard it.
Yeah. How many people try to redefine it, reframe it? They're going to go, hey, I'm going to go for the impossible. I'm going to make the impossible possible. And impossible simply stands for I'm possible. You're just coloring up another pig. If you keep using that word, you're inevitably giving yourself an excuse. Well, what did you expect? Yeah, everyone knows it's impossible. So what we did within our company and within our business was we removed that word. And every time that we would get into a communication about, okay, we're going to do an event, we're going to build up someone's business, we're going to identify a brand with their business, we're going to take a request of a dining experience in Florence and see how far we can take it. We would always, and this is about a 20-year-old term, we would say, okay, how can we make this stupid? And that's what we would do. Now, do you know the funny thing is, and you can capture yourself here, the second you say stupid, you end up smiling. And it drags you down to your 5-year-old self.
Yeah.
Now, when your 5-year-old self starts dreaming, there's no parameters.
Yeah.
There's no kind of, hey, I'd like to do, but I'm worried about the logistics of the technicality. And you don't have any of that. A 5-year-old just goes, I want to do that. Let's get a pink giraffe in here. And all of a sudden you start allowing yourself to dream and create and vision. And if we look at everyone today that we revere, whether it be Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Larry Page, any of these people, Richard Branson, name any one of them, every single one of them had stupid goals and then achieved them. And they also were pretty much unqualified. Steve Jobs could never write code. Didn't matter. Elon Musk knew nothing about banking and space. Seemed completely irrelevant. They entered into it with a childlike concept of, okay, how do we do this? I want to go on a space. Now, what needs to happen for that to happen? So we had this go for stupid mentality that would quite simply make us giggle. And then we would go, well, let's get a balloon. Now, of course, once you do the creation side, then you may start pulling it back based on budget, constraints, licenses. But here's the daft thing. You end up finding yourself 20 miles further than if you had first tried to get something that you could, in air quotes here, achieve. So the whole go for stupid mentality back then was how to take a request, remove the word impossible, and start creating with childlike curiosity.
Oh my word, Steve, this is brilliant. And to your point, it is very simple, yet in my world, simple is profound. And so what you're showing us is how to transport ourselves back to remembering what it's like to be a 5-year-old with this radical curiosity. We all remember what that was like. And yet the world has kind of masked that and covered that. And we're looking more for what we should do and what we're supposed to do. And you're saying, hey, you know, what if we come up back over here and embody that radical curiosity? And it opens us up to so much more possibility. And I love this concept. So, and you have made this a part of your team culture. You've made it a part of who you are. Like in a lot of ways, that's what you were doing in the very beginning, right? You weren't a kid who had a lot of resources and means and a network. You didn't have any of those things. And yet you had this stupid dream and you figured out how to get yourself to where that dream that only existed in your mind began to be reflected in your reality. The other thing I'm seeing here that's so good, I'm a product designer. That's kind of how I got started. And in the process of creation, you have to both acknowledge the constraints, right? The existence of the reality. And then you also have to transport yourself to a different world, which is free of the constraints. And, you know, if you were to transport yourself to the unicorn and rainbows land, what could that look like? And to your point, kind of push the boundaries. And then when you can understand how to bring these two worlds together, all of a sudden, unicorns and rainbows land that can't exist in constraints, you introduce it to the constraints, all of a sudden you come up with new possibility. This is how we innovate. And this is how we, you know, do something stupid, exciting, and amazing. This is how we become stupid rich. This is how we become stupid fulfilled in our life. And you're showing us the steps and processes for doing this. So if somebody is finding themselves trapped in the old thinking, the old way of doing things, what are the first 1 or 2 steps that you might invite them to do to start to open their mind up to the possibility?
Well, here's where it gets a bit scary. The first thing you got to do is look at your coffee table. You see, 9 times out of 10, we are in a negative environment. And we're at a coffee table, we're in a bar, we're at a restaurant. Sometimes we can be with our family on a Sunday afternoon. And we start talking about our goals, aspirations, and our business idea and our concept. And as we're talking it through and we're getting excited, the coffee table suddenly starts looking at you like you're mad. and you can see their eyes start to glaze over. And you suddenly come back and you go, oh, don't worry about me. Someone must have spiked my coffee. I'm having a bad moment. And everyone's like, yeah, that's ridiculous. You could never do that. And you suddenly realize that you're at the wrong table. So 9 times out of 10, when you feel trapped, it's because you are. The good tables are the ones you're at where people actually challenge you. I'll give you a true story. Have you heard of a gentleman called Jay Abraham?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So Jay's my neighbor and he's a good buddy of mine. And I had this idea that was going to make me millions. And it definitely was going to make me millions. And it was a surefire. It was the first time in my life I'd actually built a business plan. And I had graphs and diagrams, and it looked absolutely, oh yeah, I was impressed with myself. And I said to Jay, you know, I've got this idea. It's going to be brilliant. I can see a hole in the market. I can fill it. Can I come down and pitch you and show you? And he's like, get on down here, boys. So I went down there and I went through this business plan with him. And, and I went through the graphs and I was really proud of myself. And at the end of it, I looked at Jay and I went, well, and he scratched his chin and he had that smirk as he does. And he looked at me and he went, is that it? And I went, excuse me? I said, this plan could make us millions within a month, you know? And he actually turned around and he said to me, actually, yeah, I believe it could. But you know the funny thing, Steve? I was just expecting a little bit more. And I
Wow.
was like, what? He was like, no, listen, he said, your credibility, your enthusiasm, your connections, your ability, and you settled at this level.
Wow.
And I was like, shit, I hadn't gone high enough. And what we ended up doing was we actually ended up taking maybe like 5% of that business plan and
Okay.
just working on that, getting rid of 95% of everything else. And we did really, really well just with this small chunk that we were able to put our enthusiasm into. The point is, you don't need people keeping you down. You need people challenging you, supporting you,
Mm,
questioning you. If you feel as though you're trapped, you probably are. And the daft thing is, it may even be by your family. Your family may be very
sure.
content, pumping gas at a gas station or working in a supermarket, but that doesn't mean you have to. And everyone that we've spoken about, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, all of
Hmm.
these people were living in little apartments, 3 people in one apartment and stuff, 1 bedroom apartment. And they didn't allow it to define them. And they actually went out and did something about it. So if you feel you're trapped, the first thing you got to do is look at who's around you. Now, before you kick all your friends off to the dirt, there's a way that you can actually increase your surroundings. And you're doing it now. Listen to podcasts, read books, get into
Mm-hmm.
Facebook groups, get into communities, join entrepreneur events, surround yourself with those weird folks from Hogwarts. People,
Yeah.
we're the weird kids until we
Yeah.
get together. And then we realize, actually, we're the normal ones. Everyone else is the weird ones because they settle.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love this. I love this. You and I had a chance to meet in person at the traffic and conversion event. And one of the things that I noticed about you, just being around you in person, you're super grounded. You have a level of confidence that's real. It's not fake. You didn't need anything of the people around you. And yet at the same time, you still have dreams and aspirations and things that you're going after. What are some of the things that you do to like really have you being happy in your life? Like I meet a lot of people in the business world and they're achieving and accomplishing great things, but they aren't necessarily happy. They aren't in a place of peace within themselves. And yet I see that from you. So what are some of the things that you would say have contributed to that for you?
I think for you to be happy, and I think for you to be wealthy and successful, you've actually got to define what it means. Like I'm able to get up in the morning at 8 o'clock in my beautiful house and pour my coffee, come into my studio, and this is work.
Mhm.
This is what I have to. I come in and I get to have a conversation with you. My dad used to work on the building site until he was like 70 something, and then he died. My
Mm,
wife's father worked in a paint shop where he was like inhaling fumes, and now he has trouble breathing. My job is to go out and inspire and create and build up businesses. So you've really got to define what makes you happy and what really success is. And then you've got to stick to it. And you've got to make sure you don't get caught up in the trappings. Far too many people today are worried about what they look like. Okay. They're worried about, oh, how do I come across on Instagram? Is my
yes.
hair okay? On
Yes.
my, like, for argument's sake, I just bought a car. Okay. Now, that shouldn't, be anything to boast about. I haven't had a car since 1997. Okay. Because I
Any
always,
car at all?
yeah, because I always ride
What?
motorcycles. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so I'm always on motorcycles. I bought a
Huh.
truck just so simply I could carry motorcycles and motorcycle parts. But for me, I didn't need a Lamborghini. I didn't need to be leaning up against a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
This is me. And
Yeah.
here's the real key differentiator. No one's going to date me. Okay. I'm happily married. No one wants to go out with me. So I'm not caring about what I look like. I'm caring
Yeah.
about what I'm spouting. If I can say something today that hopefully someone that's listening to your show goes, shit, he's right. Why do I need to settle? Why shouldn't I start going for my goals? If that person I can connect with, then that's helped me become successful. Regarding being wealthy, The fact that I can just live, drink my whiskey, ride my motorcycles, pet my dogs, stay with a beautiful wife that I have, I'm the richest guy on the planet.
What does happiness, what does success look like for me, not the rest of the world? What does it look like for me? Love this. As you talk, one of the things that I think really makes you different than so many other people is you're not caught up in the narrative of the masses, right? You have a different conversation going on in your head, and that allows you to see things in a new way and capitalize on opportunities. And there's a certain narrative that goes on out in the world. And what, from your experience, from your perspective, what's something that nobody's talking about right now that you believe we should be talking about?
Wow. Okay. There's the answer. Talking about. See, okay. Soapbox ready, and cut me off whenever you like.
Go for it. You got the whole hour.
So about 3 years ago, this thing called COVID came across. Okay. And everyone suddenly was locked in their room and they couldn't get out and have conversations and connect with people and go down to the pub. And everyone was mortified. Oh my God, I can't go out anymore. And then you got people going, oh my God, I want to get back to life. I can't even go down to the gym. When that fat ass wasn't going to the gym before COVID. So COVID became the time of tremendous excuse. Oh, I wish I could do this, but I can't. It was a really comfortable excuse, but we couldn't connect. And as human beings, we like to think we've evolved. We like to think we're advanced. But if we see someone that we think's pretty, we look. If something scares us, we shield and run away. If there's a rustle in the bushes, we jump. We haven't actually evolved as much as people like to think we have. And in the midst of COVID, we were killing the one thing that makes us humans, which is our desire and our ability to connect and become pack animals. We couldn't connect. Now, that was a terrible thing. And I was praying it was the smack in the nuts that we needed to make us go, right, when this is over, I'm going to focus on my relationships. I'm going to focus on my connectivity. I'm going to focus on my clients, my friends, my family. But no, what happened instead? Cancer came along. And it was in the form of the cancel culture and the gotcha society. And what would happen was we wanted to find something that you had done in 1992 and go, oh my God, how inappropriate was that? Let's cancel your career. Now, I hate to break it to you. I was probably inappropriate yesterday, let alone 1992. But I can pretty much guarantee most of us were ignorant in 1992. Have you ever seen the program Friends?
Yes.
Do you know how sad it is that couldn't even be made today because of so many inappropriate things within it?
So true.
So there's all these kind of things that we can't do now because we're all scared. Now, we're scared. There's the key word. We're scared to do it because on top of the cancel culture, we have the gotcha society, those little, annoying little parasites to go, oh, he said something. Yep. Let's take that, what he said, out of context, shove it up on TikTok and screw him over repeatedly. So we've got the cancel culture. We've got the gotcha society. And in the midst of COVID, we've got Me Too, Asian hate, Black Lives Matter, politics. These are deep conversations we need to have. Okay. But because we're shit scared of talking and getting taken out of context, what do we do with those conversations? We avoid them. And that's where it's getting bad. We need to have conversation. We need to say something stupid. I need to say something about Me Too, Black Lives, Asian hate. I need to say something slightly ignorant or stupid so I can become educated. I need someone to go, well, hang on a minute, Steve, that's wrong. And I need to be able to go, why is it wrong? Because of it. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's a conversation. But today we're actually avoiding it. And it's not so much that we're scared. We're actually frightened and terrified of people laughing at us.
Yeah.
And that's the dumb thing. We're scared of it potentially wrecking our career or people laughing at us. Powerful people, they don't care. But the majority of people, that's where the problem is.
Yeah, which has us in this place of fear. So instead of going and doing the stupid thing, right, and pushing the boundaries and innovating and dreaming bigger, we are just trying to not get canceled. We're trying to not get the fingers pointed at us and destroyed. And
let's play a little game, which will probably kind of like make it very crystal clear to people. Okay.
Yeah.
You're an entrepreneur. You're a successful entrepreneur.
Yes,
I know
I
you.
am.
So you are. And be proud of it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What do you drive?
A Toyota Sequoia and a golf cart.
And a golf cart. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a truck?
I mean, you could call a Sequoia a truck.
Yeah, it's more like it's an SUV though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So do you want a truck?
No.
Okay. So you don't have any interest in a truck?
No.
I know this sounds annoying, but it'll make sense in a second.
All right.
Elon Musk unveiled the Cybertruck. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, we signed up for it.
Okay. Did you see it? So you watched the unveiling?
Yeah, 100%.
All right. So you that don't want a truck, that had no interest in a truck, watched the unveiling of a product that had no interest to you. He gained your attention. Okay. In a world full of noise and distraction and distortion, he gained the worldwide attention with a product that most people don't want.
Yeah.
He also, in one night, sold out every single advanced slot for that truck before he even built the first nut. Okay.
Yeah.
You think about it. How happy would you be to get the attention of people that don't even have an interest in your product, but just to be able to get that attention? And secondly, to be able to sell out everything before you've even produced it. Okay?
I mean, that is what everybody wants, Steve.
But what was the headlines the following day?
It was about how the window broke.
So did we applaud and revere him for gaining the attention of the planet? Did we celebrate his creativity by creating something that no one had ever seen before? Did we acknowledge the fact that as a marketer and an entrepreneur, he was able to sell out of a product before he even built it? No, we'd prefer to point and laugh at him.
Yep. Yeah. That's hitting hard. Yeah. Wow.
And that's the society we're in. Now, he doesn't give a shit. I know the guy. He doesn't care. And all the other people, the Steve Jobs, everyone looks at him and go, oh, that weird people. No, they just don't hear the noise. Yeah. It doesn't bother them. You're too worried about what you look like on Instagram. Elon couldn't give a shit.
Yeah.
You've got to focus on the impact that you can operate and generate and make in other people. No one cares what you look like. Okay. They care what you can do for them. Selfishly, learn to help other people. That will make you wanted.
So good. At the very beginning of that, you talked about connecting with people and the conversations that we want and need to be able to have. I heard Jordan Peterson share something. I won't be able to quote it perfectly, but he talks about how we need to be able to have these conversations because we need our thoughts to die, not us. And, you know, this is something that I know that you really care about. And it's a big part of why you're writing this book. It's why you're here with me right now. You care about the conversations. You care about being able to change people's perspective and help them see new ideas, new possibility. What are some of the things that we can be doing to lean into this need and desire to communicate and connect with one another? What are some things that we can do to facilitate that? So as leaders and entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah. So there's two conversations you need to have. And again, you need to have those conversations. You need to be able to develop. You need to be able to grow. But there's one person that's horrible for you to have that conversation with at the beginning, and that's you. You see, 9 times out of 10, we look at something and we go, hey, I'd love to do that. And even now, I guarantee you there are people that are listening to this podcast going, well, it's okay for him. It's okay for Katie. You know, they can
Sure.
do it. You know, it's okay for them. And they will talk themselves out of it. The first conversation you've got to have is with you. And this is how you do it. And I'll give you the tips that I use when I'm coaching my
Go
clients.
for it. Yeah, model it for us.
You are your worst enemy 9 times out of 10. If you can't have a conversation with yourself, how can you have a conversation with anyone else? So you got to learn to love, admire, and respect and talk with yourself first. And this is what you do. You get a piece of paper. I love writing things down. You do 5 years from now. Now, we're currently in 2022, so we're shoving up 2027. If you're listening to this podcast in the future, just go 5 years from this date.
Okay.
And write that at the top. And I've got to admit, I like doing it in Sharpie. When I'm actually doing a workshop, I'll do this in a Sharpie. Nothing takes you back better than actually doing it in crayon or Sharpie. So I'll give like a purple or pink or a green Sharpie.
Takes you back, meaning back to your 5-year-old radical, radically curious self. Okay, keep going. So good. Okay.
So you write down 2027 or whatever the 5-year goal is, 5-year time from where we are today. And then underneath it, with no space underneath it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then next to 1, I want you to dare to put a stupid goal that you want. It could be a better relationship. It could be a hot partner. It could be a truck. It could be a house on the beach. It could be $1 billion. It could be to walk on Mars. But this is what you do. You write it down and then shut up. Literally, hold your breath. Don't allow that devil to step up on the shoulder and go, hang on a minute, Katie. What are you writing here? Well, what's going on here? You know, you want to make sure that that devil doesn't get the chance. So what you do is, I want and be as specific as you can. I want a Tesla Cybertruck. Hold your breath. Just for a couple of seconds. Next one. I want a house on the beach. Hold your breath. Next one. I want to be able to release a product that's going to make $1 million in a year. Hold your breath. So you write those 5 things down. Okay. Don't allow the devil to step up. Sooner or later, the devil will get tired of trying to appear and will just go away. And as you conquer things, the devil loses its power. You know, I've worked in the Vatican, the Grammys, the Kentucky Derby, the Oscars. The devil's got nothing I can hear now because he wants to step up and go, well, hang on a minute. You're a biker from England and you were only qualified to be a bricklayer. Really? Hang on, let me text out on John and ask him if he agrees. He's got no power anymore. Okay. So here's where it gets good. You write down those 5 things, shut up as you write each one and say, write it, shut up, write it, shut up. And then this is where it gets beautiful. You know, where we put that 5-year goal up at the top, the 5-year date, go back up there with your Sharpie, cross that baby out.
Oh no, stop.
And put next year.
Oh my word.
And then what you do, you go, okay, wow, I've gone from 5-year. That gives you permission to dream.
Yeah.
You know, now I've gone 12 months. Whoa, shit. But you know, it doesn't matter. You've already written your goals. So what would have to happen in 11 months for me to achieve all those goals in 12? What would need to happen in 10 months for me to be near my 11-month goal? What would need to happen in 9 months for me to hit my 10-month? Walk it back. Now, I'm going to tell you, because this is easy for you, you're not going to achieve everything you go for. But you will achieve way, way more than what you are willing to accept. I actually talk a lot in the book about standards, how to raise your standards, how to not settle, and how to actually do this focus on being able to get what you want to achieve by being aware and dedicated to go for stupid goals.
Man, Steve, you got me emotional. That was deep. That was good. So good. Something that I notice consistently as we're talking is you live your values. What are your values? And if you could define those for us, what are your values?
I want to be me. And I urge myself on a daily basis to be me. I don't want to be anybody else. I just want to stand up. I I don't want to romanticize the past, but in the old days, and I actually had a podcast a while ago, and I actually interviewed Sammy the Bull Gravano, who was the hitman to the mafia. Very interesting podcast. But one of the things was he said there was no need for contracts, emails, or paperwork. If you said you were going to do something, you did it. Now, we don't live in that world anymore now. Oh yeah, can you send me an invoice? Can you send me a 12-page contract? No, I said, I'll do that for you. And I want to be the person that's always known that when he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. It helps me sleep at night. If I say no, I mean no. If I say yes, I mean yes. But I also want to be, and this is the key, I want to be impossible to misunderstand. I want to make sure that you either really like me and you want to work with me, or you really hate me and you can't bear to be with me, and that's fine. But there will never be anyone in the middle that goes, I'm not sure what he's getting at here. I don't know where. I'll never have those people in my life. So my value is to always show up, be me. If it works for you, great. Let's play in the sandpit. If it doesn't, fine, no problem. At least I've made your decision easy for you.
Steve, we've covered so much ground. I think we're only like 38 minutes into this, and like you have taught so many incredible principles, and you've shown us how to implement those principles where that's always the gap, right? We think we know something, but we're not living it. And when we're not living it, we're not getting the results. So I really appreciate you really taking the time to tell the stories and illustrate these principles and show us the conversation that's going on in our head, show us how to break out of that box that maybe we shoved ourselves into, and really think big, think stupid, and go for stupid, and dream beyond what maybe previously we could. And I love this tool of going back to our 5-year-old self and really utilizing that radical curiosity. And wow, thank you. This has just been such an incredibly enlightening, exciting, energizing conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Do you have a couple more minutes that we could? Oh,
I do have a couple more minutes. Yeah.
Because I have some kind of rapid fire questions for you.
Ooh, okay, exciting.
What is something that you do consistently every day?
Say thank you.
Wow. To who in particular? Life, your spouse?
To actually everything, to life, to my family, to my wife, to myself. Again, understand that you are what supports you. So I literally will I'll even thank the sun for coming up. I'm very appreciative of my life.
You radiate that. That's beautiful. Awesome. In a critical time, somebody like you who has achieved this high level of success also means that you have had moments where you didn't achieve that thing that you wanted, that you were dreaming of, that you're going after. And so in one of those moments where maybe you could call it failure, was there somebody who shared some wisdom, some advice that really helped you overcome that moment?
Wow. All right. So you've got to know, for you to be able to be on the top of the hill, you've got to climb up it. And after time, you end up falling down it quite a lot of times. No one steps onto the top of the hill. My dad wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. He was a thick-assed Irish bricklayer. But I remember one day, and I don't even know where it came from, but one day he looked at me and he went, "Son, remember this. No one has ever drowned from falling in the water. They drowned by staying there." And I was like,
wow.
Okay. And that didn't make any sense to me at the time because I was like 16 years old living in East London on a building site. But as I've got older, I've realized, hang on a minute, I can stay here, wallow and cry and moan, or I can face the challenge. And as I said to you before, and I'm glad you brought it back, failure is your education. I've never failed, but I've become tremendously educated on what I'm not good at. And by being able to look at it and reframe it as an education, you also learn to appreciate it. Look at all of the worst times in your life and look at how you become empowered by them. That's your superpower. So yeah, that's the one for me.
So good. So good. Is there a book that you find yourself gifting and maybe revisiting, the one that you open more than once?
So I have a philosophy. I do a 2 and a 1. I do 2 business books and then I do like a fantasy.
Okay.
So I absolutely love the Dragon Tattoo trilogy. That was a fantastic line of books. I just read one
Okay.
called Ove. My point is that when you read business books, I get pissed off because I get aggravated. I go, damn it, why aren't I doing that? And they agitate me. And then I go and action them. But then I also have to read one that makes me dream and fantasize and go, oh, wow, this character's coming alive. And so I always make sure I do 2 to 1. It depends on the person I'm speaking with as to
Okay.
the book that I will send. So Cameron
Mhm.
Harold, Ryan Holiday, Jay Abraham, Roland
Mm,
Frazier, depending who
mm.
I'm speaking with will be
Yeah.
depend on the book. But I love to gift out books.
Love
And
it.
funny enough, I never gift out my own book. Never done that, but I do gift out. I will buy other people's books and gift those out.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Love it. You don't gift your own book because you're that guy who doesn't have the ego. So amazing. Steve Sims, this has been absolutely incredible. I really appreciate you taking the time, making the time. I know you're on a book tour, you're launching, you got so much going on. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be present with me, to be present with our audience, to share so much gold, so much wisdom and experience, and really help us bridge the gap between where we are and where we want to go. And just thank you from the bottom of my heart. This has been absolutely amazing. For people who want to connect with you, which platform are you most active on?
Sure. All of them, as everyone should be. But
Yeah.
the key is I'm Steve D. Sims at all of them. So D for
Okay.
dash in, 1 M in Sims, stevedsims.com. But if you go on Twitter, Instagram, any of your favorites, I'm Steve D. Sims. I'm the same person everywhere. But if you want to see about the book, go for stupid.com.
Okay. And I have a question for you about
Yeah.
that. I hopped onto Audible to get it. Is it going to be on Audible at some point?
So I started recording it last Saturday. So
Okay.
I don't know how long the edit. I've still got to do my second half of the read, and it's got to be
Okay.
edited. So it is
But
being
we can get
done, but I
we can
don't
get the
know when.
physical copy now,
Yes, you
right? We
can.
can get the
Yes, you
physical.
can.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Steve Sims, thank you so much. And for everybody who's listening, this is What's Working Now.
Thank you.